Welcome to Sleeping Therapy by Emma. This is a space of stillness, a soft corner of time created just for you where words are not only stories but gentle threads woven together to soothe your mind, carry you away from the noise of the day, and guide you toward sleep. Close your eyes now, if you wish. Let the weight of the day begin to settle behind you. Notice the rhythm of your breathing, steady and calm, like quiet footsteps along a path at dusk. Each breath out is a letting go. Each breath in is a return, a reminder that in this moment, you are safe, you are cared for, and you are allowed to rest. Tonight's journey comes from the ancient lands of Egypt, where the desert meets the Nile and the night sky glitters with stories older than memory. It is a tale of Hathor, goddess of joy, music, and dream. In this story, she offers her lullaby to a restless traveler, a song so soft and patient that it carries him into peace, balance, and renewal. As you listen, let your mind walk quietly beside Neferu, the traveler who seeks rest. His steps will become your steps. His breaths will become your breaths. And just as he learns to welcome sleep, not as escape, but as gift, you too may feel the presence of stillness unfolding around you. Remember, there is no need to hold on to the story too tightly. Allow it to drift like the Nile under moonlight. If your mind wanders, that is perfectly fine. If your eyelids grow heavy and you fade into deeper dreaming before the tale ends, that is exactly how it should be, because tonight, this story is not only told. It is sung softly for you as a lullaby. So rest your head now, settle your heart, and let us begin. Hathor's Lullaby, the Goddess of Joy and Dreams. Chapter 1, Part A. The Whisper Beneath the Stars, Listen Now. As the night itself seems to lean closer, ready to share a story, imagine a land where sand meets sky, where the breath of the desert carries not only silence, but secrets. This is Egypt in its timeless hours, when the Nile reflects constellations like a river of liquid stars, and the world feels hushed, waiting for a lullaby. Once upon that quiet stretch of eternity, there lived a traveler named Neferu, whose heart was often restless. Though he lived among loving people in a bustling riverside village, the nights never seemed to grant him rest. His thoughts scattered like starlings, carried away by winds of memory and worry. And so, one evening, he decided to walk away from the lanterns, away from the chatter, and let his footsteps lead him only by the glow of the sky. The sand stretched like a golden sea, still warm from the day, but cooling gently beneath his tired solace. Each step felt softer, as if the desert itself welcomed him. He did not know where he was walking, but perhaps that did not matter. Sometimes journeys are given to us before destinations are revealed. And so he wandered, following a strange, faint sound, an echo that hovered on the wind. It was almost like singing, but gentler. The sound drew him toward the horizon, where moonlight painted faint shapes in the dunes. The more he listened, the more he realized that his breathing fell into rhythm with the melody. Each inhalation carried calm, each exhalation dissolved worry. This, dear listener, was no ordinary tune. For in the heavens above, the goddess Hathor looked upon the earth with luminous eyes. She was known as the Lady of Music, of joy, of beauty and peace, and when she saw a heart tangled in restless thought, she gently sang. Her voice was not like thunder nor proclamation, but like the soft hum a mother offers her child, or the brush of wind through reeds upon the Nile. Neferu stumbled upon an oasis he had never seen before, though he had traveled the desert many times. Palm trees bent as if protecting a secret pool that shimmered under the starlight. The air itself smelled of honey and spring flowers, though the desert was far from blooming. Every detail seemed touched by unseen care. He paused in wonder, heart rising with the simple beauty of it, when he realized the voice was clearer here, soothing, fluid, as if the water itself was singing. Welcome, child of the Nile, the voice breathed through the night. Not a voice that startled, not a voice that demanded. Its gentleness wrapped him in safety. He turned, searching, but saw no figure upon the sands. Only the shimmer of the stars above and their reflection in the pool below. "Who speaks?" Neferu whispered, strangely unafraid. For something within him already knew. The sound was older than fear, older than doubt. "I am Hathor, keeper of joy, singer of the midnight sky," the voice said, each word carrying the hush of a harp. "Do not be troubled, Neferu. Tonight you are not lost. Tonight you are called." His hand trembled slightly and then fell calm at his side. To be called by a goddess, it was not what he expected on an evening walk. He bowed without thought, as one does before beauty too great to measure. "I have watched you carry your waking thoughts deep into the hours meant for rest," Hathor continued, almost like a lullaby pushing meaning through music. "I see you pacing, seeking peace, but finding none. Yet peace is not something to chase, child. Peace is something to invite." Neferu closed his eyes, breathing the starlit air. "And how does one invite peace, Lady Hathor?" Her laughter was the softest rainfall, the kind that hardly waits but fills the soul. "Through harmony, through listening, through remembering that life is music and you are part of the song. You carry melodies within you, though you have long forgotten their notes. I will teach you to hear them again." And with that, the pool at the heart of the oasis stirred. Small ripples spread outward as though invisible fingers had touched the water. Neferu stepped closer, drawn as if into a dream. Within the ripples, images appeared, tiny visions, each shining with golden haze. He saw children laughing beside baskets of dates, saw fruit trees heavy with figs, saw lovers exchanging garlands of lotus blossoms. Every scene pulsed with warmth and gentleness. "These are fragments of joy, woven into the song of all creation," Hathor explained. "When you remember them, you remember rest. Joy does not demand thunder to announce itself. It arrives softly, waiting to be noticed." Neferu knelt, mesmerized by the shimmering water. He could almost hear instruments beyond the veil sistrums shaking like delicate rain, harps flowing with notes that blossomed into light. His heavy thoughts, the ones that usually shadowed him, seemed to pause. They were not gone entirely, yet their edges dulled, softened by music too vast to resist. "Sleep," Hathor's voice brushed the air, "is not an escape. It is a return. Each night you return to the river beneath all rivers, to the song that binds gods, mortals, earth, and stars. Allow yourself to drift. The song will carry you." Neferu let the words seep deeper. His eyelids fluttered like sails catching a gentle current. Though still awake, he already sensed what it might feel like to fall into sleep without struggle. It was less like surrendering and more like allowing, like leaning into the arms of something eternal. The palms rustled sweetly above him. The desert wind seemed tuned to harps unseen. And Hathor's voice wove through it all, not demanding focus, but stroking the senses so that all sharpness melted away. He thought of the village he had left behind, of its noise and worries. And suddenly, he realized those worries had always been less heavy than he made them. What seemed impossible in daylight then easily before the night's music. 8 hours of rest could transform burdens into dust carried by dawn. He smiled faintly, almost forgetting why he had resisted sleep in the first place. The goddess continued speaking, though now her words hovered between language and melody, phrases dissolving into notes like stars dissolving into sky. "When you wake again, may laughter return easily. May stillness be a friend you can welcome. May you remember that your life is nothing less than a sacred song." As her words poured, the oasis seemed to grow deeper, fuller, endless. Though Neferu stood only at its shore, he felt that he could step inside and keep walking forever into its music. Was it real water? Was it dream? Such questions softened until they mattered no longer. The moon drifted slowly overhead, silver light caressing sand, palm, pool, and wanderer. In its reflections, Neferu's face looked lighter, as though shadows had lifted. His journey was only beginning, but already the burden in his chest had softened to embers that no longer burned. Tonight, under the wide Egyptian sky, the story begins, not only his story, but the lullaby that travels through immortality itself. For Hathor does not sing for one alone. She sings for all who listen in the quiet hours, for all who seek rest when shadows grow long. She sings even now for you. So listen, dear dreamer. Listen, and let your breath match the rhythm of the goddess. For the night is wide, the stars are endless, and within their glow hums a lullaby, soft, patient, steady. And this lullaby, you are a part of it, always. Chapter 1, Part B. The pool of quiet reflections. The night did not rush forward. It lingered, unrushed and generous, as if time itself had slowed its heartbeat. Neferu gazed upon the oasis pool, still rippling with golden visions left by Hathor's touch. It was as though the goddess had carved soft windows into eternity, allowing him to glimpse what endless joy might look like. "Step closer, child of the Nile," the voice hummed, a gentle harp strum in the desert air. "The waters of this pool remember more than you think. Dip your hands, and they will show you how joy hides even in sorrow, waiting to be found." Neferu hesitated, but not from fear. Rather, it was reverence. He reached tentatively, letting his fingers break the shimmering surface. The water was warm, though the desert night had cooled, as if it carried the sun's memory. Ripples spread outward and curled back in like the breathing of the earth itself. Images filled the water once again. This time they were not distant strangers, but fragments of Neferu's own life. He saw himself as a child, running barefoot between date palms, while his mother's voice laughed across the fields. He saw an evening long ago when he sat with his father on a small fishing boat, watching the Nile's surface turn to molten copper as the sunset sank behind the sandbanks. The memory glowed, brighter than he remembered it ever being. His throat tightened. He had grown so busy with adulthood, so tangled in daily burdens, that he had nearly forgotten these gentle moments. Yet here they were, shining and unbroken, patiently waiting within him. "You see," Hathor's voice cooed, "peace is never lost. It is only hidden beneath noise. Within you are countless treasures, but your waking mind runs too quickly to notice them. At night, when you rest, the treasures call out again. They wish to be remembered." Neferu closed his eyes and breathed deeper, as if inhaling light itself. For the first time in many moons, he felt calmness spread toward the corners of his heart. A breeze curled through the oasis, rustling the palms. The sound was like sistrums shaking softly in a priestess's hands, only quieter, more intimate. Even the desert creatures seemed hushed, as if they too pressed their ears to Hathor's song. "My lady," Neferu whispered, "why me? Out of all who walk the sands, why sing to me this night?" Again, there was that laughter, airy as drifting reeds. "Do you think I sing only for you, child? My song unfurls wherever ears are open. Tonight you listened. Many passed by the music, distracted by fears louder than their breath. But you, whether by accident or longing, you followed the sound, and so you stand here, hearing what others walk past. It is not about worthiness. It is about listening." Her words fluttered through him, like dove wings across still water. Listening, could it be so simple? Always he had searched for complicated answers, intricate patterns, elaborate solutions to restless nights. But the goddess reminded him that sometimes peace asks for nothing more than stillness, nothing more than patience. The pool rippled once more, carrying forward another vision. This time it showed a knight many years ahead, the man he had not yet become. His beard had silver in it, but his eyes held warmth. He was sitting with children at his feet, telling them a story. The children laughed, clutching one another with joy at each twist of the tale. And though older, Neferu's smile was carefree, his body at ease with the flowing river of time. "Your story has many chapters still unwritten," Hathor said, voice shimmering like golden cymbals struck ever so softly. This image is not carved in stone, not destiny that cannot bend. It is potential, but it shows you this truth. Joy belongs to you, even in years not yet touched. Neferu watched the vision fade, but felt its echo bloom within his chest. He thought of the children's laughter, even without knowing their names or faces. He felt their happiness brush his spirit. Such warmth seemed to promise that life, however uncertain, carried sweetness ahead. The pool fell still once more, a mirror for the heavens. Within its reflection, Neferu saw stars upon stars, endless layers of light. For a moment, he couldn't tell where the water ended and the night began. Above, the goddess lingered unseen but undeniably present, her song woven into every shimmer. "Rest, child," she urged, her tones hushed, slower now, almost like drowsy breaths. "Let me offer you practice in slowness. Here, in this place, there is no need to race ahead or cling behind. Here, even the stars seem content to shine without haste. Breathe with them." Neferu obeyed, filling his lungs with cool desert air and releasing it like a tide. He noticed how his chest softened, how tension loosened in his shoulders. The ground beneath him, once merely sand, became a cradle. Almost imperceptibly, his body rocked with the rhythm of the earth's quiet pulse. Through that slowing, he noticed sounds he had missed before. The faint bubbling of water beneath the pool's surface, the faraway hoot of a night bird, the even fainter murmur of his heartbeat, a private drum that kept time with the goddess's lullaby. All of creation seemed to breathe in unison, and he was part of its chorus. "Carry this home," Hathor whispered. "Even when the worries of dawn circle you, remember how the stars breathe. Rest is not weakness, Neferu. Rest is strength disguised as stillness. Even Ra, who sails the sun across the heavens, allows himself the long night voyage to renew. You too are allowed to rest. You are meant to." A small tear slipped from Neferu's closed eyelid, not from sadness, but from recognition, as though the truth had always lived inside him, yet waited so long to be spoken aloud. Slowly, gently, his body leaned onto the sand beside the pool. The palms swayed overhead as if keeping rhythm for his breath. His limbs rested heavier, comfortable in surrender. No weight pressed him, no demand hurried him. He was simply here, part of the song's flowing river, Hathor's humming wrapped closer. No longer distant, it felt as though it brushed directly against his skin, filling him not as sound in the ear, but as warmth in the heart. Her melody slowed further, each elongated note folding into the next like waves of honey over stone. If music could be sleep, this was it. Before his eyelids shut fully, one last vision brushed the pool, the outline of Hathor herself. Not fierce or overwhelming as gods are often painted, but radiant in gentleness. Her crown of sun disks glowed not harshly, but tenderly, like dawn filtered through 1,000 flowers. Her gaze rested on him not as deity separate from mortal, but as mother gazes at child, as lullaby gazes at dreamer. And then, as his breathing eased into the rhythm of slumber, the vision faded, leaving only rippling starlight and the rustle of night palms. The desert, the water, the goddess, the dreamer, they hummed together as one. Chapter 2, Part A, The Path of Silver Sand. The hours after Neferu's first encounter did not unfold like ordinary time. When his eyes opened again, it was not waking, but another kind of drifting somewhere between the weight of the earth and the weightlessness of dreams. He found himself lying still upon the warm desert sand, though the pool beside him glowed brighter than before, as if kissed by dawn, though dawn had not yet come. The sky stretched wide, but something within it had changed. The constellations seemed closer, more luminous, almost as though they had bent down toward him, curious about his presence beneath their eternal gaze. Even the stars watched, their silent glimmers like unspoken blessings. "Rise, Neferu," came the voice that had soothed him into stillness. Hathor's tones trembled softly across the horizon like the plucked string of a lute. Your journey has begun, but there are paths yet to walk. Take strength from the rest you have tasted, for ahead lies a deeper song. Neferu lifted himself slowly, the sand brushing his palms like silk. His body did not ache. In fact, it felt lighter, as though his limbs had shed burdens too long carried. His breath came easily, each inhalation expanding into a wave of peace. He stood, gazing across the desert. Before him lay a path not seen before, a ribbon of sand that shimmered silver, glowing as if powdered by moonlight. It stretched onward into the night, winding gently toward distant hills. Though the desert was endless, this path guided his eyes like a melody leads ears, inevitable and inviting. Step by step he followed. Each placement of his foot upon the glowing sand seemed to awaken notes, faint, but distinct tones of invisible instruments, as if the ground beneath him sang softly. The more he walked, the more he felt himself part of that song, not merely someone moving upon the land, but someone woven into its rhythm. Do you hear it? Hathor's presence spoke, though the goddess herself remained unseen. Every step in harmony with earth becomes a note. When you walk mindfully, the world remembers. This is how mortals and gods share dialogue, not with grand speeches, but with listening feet, breathing hearts. Neferu's chest warmed. I hear it, Lady Hathor. The sand sings beneath me, low and sweet. It is joy, she whispered, the foundation of stillness. All creatures long to return to it, bird, river, star, and you. The path carried him to a small rise in the land, where boulders, smoothed by ancient winds, sat like guardians. Between them lay a hollow filled with sand that glimmered brighter than the rest. And above this hollow, the stars arranged themselves not as scattered sparkle, but as deliberate picture points of light curving into the shape of a great cow's face, radiant horns extending upward. Neferu paused, knees bending instinctively in reverence, for he recognized what the sky revealed. Hathor's symbol, the celestial cow, mothering and protective, bearer of milk and music, joy and dream. As he knelt, warm air stirred, and suddenly the hollow ahead filled with golden mist. The mist curled upward, forming arches and shapes, until before him stood a doorway, carved not of stone, but of starlight itself. Through the door, faint glimmers moved a garden of endless size, where lotus blossoms floated on rivers of light, and trees heavy with fruit reached higher than pyramids. Bells of unseen origin rang out gently, flowers opening with each sound. The fragrance that carried upon the breeze was both intoxicating and restful, sweet yet soft, as though the air itself knew how to cradle. Step through, Hathor guided. You are invited into my garden of dreaming, where mortals are reminded what eternity feels like when wrapped in gentleness. Neferu, though awed, felt no hesitation. His foot crossed the threshold, and instantly the desert behind him softened into silence, replaced by birdsong too sweet to describe. The soil beneath his feet was no longer sand, but soft grass kissed with dew. Rivers glittered, so calm that one could scarcely see their flow until the reflections of stars rippled their surface. All around, he saw figures, perhaps people, perhaps dreams themselves, walking slowly, languidly, their eyes calm, their movements serene. They did not speak, but their smiles carried laughter deeper than any words. Some held lotus blossoms glowing with pale fire. Others simply drifted among the trees, sipping fragrance as if it were water. Neferu gazed in wonder. Is this paradise, Lady Hathor? The voice swirled warmly through the garden. Not paradise, no. This is reflection, the place where what is eternal reveals itself. Each night, when dreamers sleep carefree, they wander here without knowing. You now step within a wake, for you wish so deeply to remember what rest feels like. The rivers beckoned him closer. He knelt by their banks, dipping a hand into the glimmering flow. The water kissed his skin with gentle coolness before reshaping into something more. When he lifted his palm, the droplets did not fall but became tiny shards of light, each pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. They drifted upward, floating into the night above, as if returning home to stars. Mesmerized, Neferu watched them vanish. A smile curved his lips, unconscious, effortless. He realized he had not smiled so freely in many nights. "Here, nothing is taken," Hathor said, her voice carrying like a song through rustling leaves. "Here, all things only return. That is the truth of peace. Nothing is lost, nothing wasted. You are carried back, as rivers carry water back to seas, as notes return to silence between songs." Her words melted into his chest like honey poured onto bread, the sweetness seeping, the warmth giving comfort, the nourishment unmistakable. As he walked deeper into the garden, he found a wide space where the grass rippled like waves, though no wind blew. At the center of this space stood a great tree, its branches shining as though woven from gold, yet its leaves glistening green, weighted with fruit bursting in ripeness. Beneath this tree sat figures in repose, the peaceful, the dreamers, the weary who had laid down burdens. Their heads rested against the tree's roots, and their faces glowed with the unexplainable radiance of inner rest. Neferu approached with reverence, placing his palm against the tree's bark. To his surprise, it pulsed. A slow, deep rhythm thrummed into his body, the heartbeat of the tree, resonating with his own. Perfectly aligned, perfectly hushed, as if both heartbeats belonged to one vast song of being. And for the first time in memory, Neferu believed he could sleep, truly sleep, without chase or resistance. Hathor's voice returned, softer now, as though closer to his ear. "This is the tree of renewal. Sit within its shadow and burdens untangle. Breathe beneath its branches, and your heartbeat finds balance. Rest against it, and you return to yourself fully." So he did. He sat, laying his back against the living gold. Warmth spread in waves across his body, pain unraveling, tension folding away. He closed his eyes, and all he heard was the harmony of leaves and heartbeat mingled together. The garden hushed with him as though all dreamed in unison, and Neferu knew he had stepped into the lullaby itself. Chapter 2, Part B, The Lotus Voices. The tree's pulse lingered in Neferu's chest, each slow thrum smoothing him like the passing of an oar through still water. For some time, he only sat beneath its radiant boughs, eyes half closed, letting the warmth pour into him. The air within the garden was not heavy with silence, but alive with a hush that carried meaning. It told him he belonged here, that all dreamers did. At length, Hathor's voice brushed his ear again, velvet in its tone. "There's more for you to hear, child of the Nile. Rise and follow the riverbank. The lotus awaits you." Her words were both invitation and lullaby, coaxing him deeper without urgency. Neferu rose slowly, feeling no strain. His body, once so heavy with unease, now moved with the ease of a reed swaying in calm water. He followed the soft curls of the glowing river until he reached a quiet bend. There upon its surface lay an unbroken line of lotus blossoms, blue, white, and gold-tinted petals opening gently toward the night sky. The flowers did not float aimlessly. They arranged themselves into patterns, spirals that widened then folded inward again, like the breathing of the garden itself. The fragrance lifted around him, sweet yet subtle, like the faintest milk and honey blending with cool Nile water. And then, the astonishing part, the lotuses began to hum, not with words, but with tones that shimmered like faint lyres strummed in the distance. Each blossom gave a note, and together they harmonized softly, weaving a melody that seemed older than stone, older than stars. Neferu stilled, overwhelmed by their beauty. He whispered under his breath, "They sing." Yes, Hathor's voice spilled through the blossoms themselves, for they are memory and promise at once. Each lotus carries a voice once carried by the living. Loved ones, forgotten friends, ancestors of your blood, all join the chorus here, softened by joy, reminding you that nothing precious is ever lost. The blossoms pulse brighter with each note, and then one in particular, a radiant blue, drifted toward the river's bank where Neferu stood. Drawn to it, he leaned down, cupping the blossom carefully in his hands. To his surprise, its humming shifted into words faint, like a whisper dripping with dew. "Rest, my child," it said. Neferu froze, heart suddenly leaping. That voice, gentle, warm, undeniably familiar, belonged to his mother. His breath caught in his throat, eyes pricking with shimmering tears. He had not heard her since her passing years ago, and yet here it was, clear and soft through petals of light. "My son," the lotus whispered, "I see your wandering nights. You are not alone. Each time your eyelids close, I am near, folded into your dreams. You are here." His voice broke, though even in breaking it carried relief. In every song of the goddess, her voice soothed. In each ripple of water, in each hush of wind kissing branches, I return. Not to bind you with sadness, but to remind you, you need not carry your burdens alone. Neferu closed his eyes, pressing the lotus closer to his chest. A current rolled down his cheeks, but no sorrow clung to it. These were tears of release, tears that finally let go of the weight restless nights had stitched into his soul. Hathor's voice rose again, wrapping around mother and son as one. "You see now, Neferu, dreams are not the illusion mortals mistake them for. They are a river where eternal voices flow, where those who love you still sing. Sleep is not an absence. It is communion." With trembling fingers, Neferu returned the blue lotus to the river, where it floated gracefully among the others. Its humming liquefied back into the great chorus, but the warmth of its words remained deep in his heart, immovable and healing. He stood there, letting the blossoms play their ancient hymn. Each note now seemed softer, deeper, as though the entire river vibrated with his mother's love. He realized the hum wasn't simply in the air, it pulsed within his body, resonating in his bones, in his blood, even in his breath. The path ahead glowed gently, and so he continued walking beside the river. Every few steps, another blossom would drift toward him, each one bearing its own message in hushed tones. Some voices, he realized, were not even personal to him. One said, "Sleep courageously." Another sang, "Be gentle with the days." Another hummed no words at all, but its sound blanketed him with contentment. And then came a golden blossom, floating softly, glowing brighter than most before. Its hum carried strength, firm yet tender. When Neferu cupped it in his palms, Hathor's voice emanated through it directly. "Neferu," she said, "you have seen the truth of joy, that it belongs not only to you, but to all who wander. Take this as your teaching. Joy multiplies when carried forward. Begin to share your rest with others, not by grand gestures, but by living gently. When calmness rests in your chest, it ripples outward, just as these blossoms ripple across the river. If you bring kindness into wakefulness, you extend the lullaby of night." Neferu bowed his head in gratitude. "Yes, Lady Hathor, I will remember. I will carry the song with me." The golden lotus hummed the final note before he set it upon the water again, where it rejoined its glowing companions. And as the current carried them forward, the blossoms began rising from the river one by one, drifting upward into the night sky until they became indistinguishable from stars. A hush fell as Neferu watched the heavens blaze brighter with their addition. The garden sky itself seemed to breathe in unison with him, inhaling peace, exhaling tension. "My lady," he whispered, "if all dreamers come here each night, then none ever dream alone." "Indeed," Hathor sang tenderly, "none are alone in slumber. All who pause, even for a breath of stillness, join this chorus. Only few remember in waking hours. But you, Neferu, you will return carrying fragments of this lullaby into daylight, guiding others without even knowing." His heart swelled, not with the proud weight of duty, but with the lightness of a gift freely given. And as the river wound deeper into the garden, its blossoms now fewer. Hathor's voice lowered like a mother whispering bedtime words into her child's ear. Rest again for a while beneath the night's great song. Tomorrow the journey continues. But tonight you have learned, sleep is never silence. It is a voice, a chorus, an embrace. Neferu lowered himself into the soft grass. The ground shaped itself into comfort beneath him, almost like familiar bedding woven of starlight and reeds. Beside him, the gentle lap of the glowing river kept time, like a heartbeat not just of body, but of universe. As his eyes closed, he did not sink into darkness, but into light, the faint glow of blossoms singing inside his dreams. He smiled, the curve of lips easy, natural content, and then he drifted fully and freely into the slumber of gods. Chapter 3. Part A. The Weighing of Quiet. When Neferu next stirred, he awoke not in his village, nor on desert sands, but still within the dream garden that blossomed under Hathor's voice. His body felt cradled, as though the earth itself had hands cupped around him. The fragrance of night-blooming lotus lingered in the air, mingling with a faint sweetness that tasted like honey on his breath. Yet something was new. A soft breeze moved across the garden, not chaotic, but guiding. It carried with it feathers light, iridescent feathers that glowed faintly in the starlight, drifting gently down until they carpeted the ground like fallen petals. Neferu reached out and caught one upon his palm. It weighed almost nothing, so light it was as if the air itself had shaped it. As he turned the feather over in his hand, another voice filled the stillness. This one was different from Hathor's, clearer, sharper in tone, though still warm. Where Hathor's song was honey and strained harp, this voice was bell and breeze, gentle yet precise. Balance, it whispered. All joy rests upon balance. Without balance, peace shatters. Neferu rose to his feet, heart fluttering in quiet awe. Who speaks? He asked, gazing upward. Between the branches of the golden tree, a figure revealed herself, woven from starlight and shadow. Her wings arched wide, crafted from countless luminous feathers that drifted slowly like snow. Upon her head gleamed the ostrich feather of truth. Her presence was neither stern nor frightening, but steady, calm, exact. She stepped forward across the carpet of glowing feathers, her eyes deep as ancient stone. I am Mat, she said, her voice like water flowing evenly across polished rock. I am the balance, the truth, the harmony that breathes within creation. If Hathor gifts joy, I weave its measure. One without the other cannot last. Neferu bowed instinctively. Lady Mat, he said softly, reverent as the sands bowed to the wind. The goddess nodded, her gaze kind but direct. Your heart has tasted peace tonight, but tell me, Neferu, does it rest without worry of tomorrow? You hold joy now, yes, but how will you carry it when the sun climbs again? Balance begins with memory. He swallowed slowly, lowering his guilty eyes. Often I forget. The worries return when light comes. My nights speak gently to me, but days roar and drag me into unease. Her wings folded around her, feathers rustling like parchment against parchment. This is why I've come. Hathor's song opens your heart, but my feather steadies it. For rest is not merely a gift to your nights, it is a task for your waking. And the heart must be weighed, not by punishment, not by judgment, but by remembering balance. She extended her hand, and suddenly before Neferu appeared scales made of radiant light. They did not clang or shine harshly. They hovered gently, held aloft by air itself. One pan of the scale glowed faintly golden, while the other lay empty, awaiting weight. This, Mat said, is the truth within you. Place what you carry upon the scale. Place your burdens, your worries, your whispered fears. Weigh them, and see if they outweigh the feather of your being. Neferu hesitated, then closed his eyes. Images from his daily life swirled, worries about harvests, Fears of disappointing his family, regrets for words left unspoken, anxieties of never being enough. They clustered in his chest like stones. Tentatively, he imagined them leaving him, placing them upon the glowing pan. To his surprise, as he released each thought, it shaped itself into form, rocks of shadow falling gently into the scale. The pan lowered, weighted dark stones gathering within it. Neferu looked upon them, feeling his chest lighter for having set them down, yet his heart ached to see how heavy they seemed. Met raised a hand. The feather upon her head floated downward, drifting delicately into the opposite pan. For a moment the scales swayed, stones against feather, burden against truth. Neferu feared the feather would rise helplessly, yet to his astonishment the scales steadied, coming slowly to balance. He blinked, unbelieving. How? My worries are many, the feather only one. Mat's eyes glimmered softly. Because truth is lighter than burden. One feather, when aligned, outweighs all false heaviness. The worries you carry feel heavy, but they lack substance. Balance remembers this. The heart, when true, is never heavier than it must be. Neferu exhaled, a laugh slipping from him unbidden. It was a light sound, surprised and relieved, like clay cracking beneath rain to reveal green shoots. The goddess approached, placing her hand upon his shoulder. Her touch was steady, grounding. When your days grow loud again, remember this. Weigh them. Place them upon the scale of your heart at night. See if they are heavier than truth. You will find, always, that a heart aligned with joy and gentleness outweighs the shadows. The scales shimmered before dissolving in a quiet spark of light. Only the feather remained, hovering gently before Neferu, its glow like moonlight distilled to softness. Take it, Mat said simply. Neferu reached, cupping the feather carefully in his hand. It was warm, though impossibly light. A pulse, faint yet steady, thrummed through it like a secret heartbeat. He tucked it against his chest, and immediately he felt his breathing calm further, as though the feather had woven little harmonies into his body. Balance and joy. Mat and Hathor's voices rose together, blending across the garden. A duet, one sharp and true, the other soft and tender. Together they are the bed where dreams rest without fear. The figures of both goddesses lingered a moment more, their light interlaced, until gradually they softened. Met's feathers folded back into stars. Hathor's warmth folded back into fragrance. Both voices, however, remained within him. Neferu was left standing beside the shining river once more, feather at his chest, lotus fragrance curling around his breath. The night did not grow heavier. If anything, it expanded in light. For the first time, he felt not only soothed, but anchored. Balanced joy that was the bedrock he had been missing. He gazed upward, where now the stars glimmered more brightly than ever. And for the briefest moment, he thought they leaned closer, approving, resting their ancient light upon his shoulders as if in blessing. Neferu smiled, whispering into the night, "I will remember." In waking and in dreaming, and the wind carried his words upward, wrapping them into the lullaby itself. Chapter 3, Part B, The River, Between Waking and Dreaming. The feather of Mat still rested against Neferu's chest, glowing faintly as though memorizing the rhythm of his heartbeat. Wherever he pressed it, palm, shoulder, skin, it adjusted to fit seamlessly, as if it belonged within him all along. He exhaled softly, noticing how his breath now matched its steadiness. Yet the garden shifted again. The grass beneath his feet rippled, liquid gleams flowing outward. The ground was no longer soil, but river. The golden garden stretched and folded itself like paper drifting into water, dissolving into waves touched by moonlight. Neferu stood now upon a wooden bark small but sturdy, riding gently across a vast stretch of the Nile. Its waters reflected not only stars, but also visions moments, of past and future braided across its surface. Some flashes showed his own life, tossing grain into baskets, speaking warm words to neighbors, laughter under the sun. Other ripples displayed figures unknown to him, strangers smiling, children chasing one another in fields, families breaking bread together. All were hugged by the Nile's current, carried in peace. From somewhere beyond the river's distant curve, Hathor's emerald voice drifted in, blending now with Matt's silvery tone. Joy and balance carry you, child. They are the oars of this vessel. Ride softly the river between realms, and learn how the night ferries all souls into rest. Neferu lowered himself upon the curved wooden bench, gazing into the glimmering waters. His body swayed with the boat, an easy cradle rising and falling. The rhythm was hypnotic. Lift, settle, lift, settle. His breathing found the same cadence. Already his limbs felt heavier, though not with burden heaviness like warm blankets laid across him. He touched the edge of the boat. To his surprise, the wood hummed faintly under his palm. The vessel itself was alive, singing its own tone, adding to the harmony. Every oar stroke brought a rising note. Every dip of the hull into water gave a soft bass. Even the river's gentle lap against the sides strummed like strings. Without needing to force, Neferu realized he sat in the middle of a full orchestration. The river itself was music. Your life is a bark upon waters, Matt's voice chimed like bells hidden behind clouds. Each day, each night you move between shores of waking and dreaming. Do not resist the current. This ride is not loss but passage, not death but renewal, not silence but song. The boat curved smoothly along the current. Before him stretched banks shimmering not with reeds, but with radiant figures. They were people dreamers like himself, each lying easily upon grassy banks, heads cradled by light, limbs unwound in surrender. Some gave the appearance of villagers, shepherds, children. Others looked like kings and queens adorned in golden crowns, yet all slept alike, stripped of burden. All wore the same expression, that of peace given without condition. Neferu whispered to himself, all equal here. All drift upon the river. Yes, Hathor sang, for sleep forgives rank. It returns kings to babes, and restores babes to kings. In slumber, all are simply human, returning to unity. This, Neferu, is why rest is sacred. His heart swelled at the image that no matter who a person was, when they closed their eyes to dream, they shared the same current. And so he understood why he should not feel shame in needing rest, for it was not a weakness but a holy act, a joining of great company. The river's water brightened, and from its surface rose luminous fish, flickering with scales like shards of moonlight. They leapt gently, yet their leaps made no splashes. Instead, each fish created ripples in the air, ripples that rang out as tone-soft notes layering upon the river's symphony. Soon, dolphins surfaced too, their curves radiant silver, twirling high before vanishing into currents of starlight. Creatures danced the water's lift not for hunger or chase, but purely for joy. Neferu laughed aloud at a sound so free it echoed through the dream. His laughter joined the music naturally, no division, no discord. It astonished him how weightless joy felt once it was not pursued, but found in simple presence. As the bark floated further, he glimpsed an island ahead, radiant with firefly lights spun like necklaces across trees. A faint gong pulsed from its center, but not loud, deep, and hollow, rolling soft as thunder heard from far mountains. It called without hurrying, beckoning as one invites a child to bed with gentle hand over covers. The boat curved, guided by current, until it touched gently against the island shore. Neferu stepped off, sand beneath his feet sparkling faint silver. He followed the track lit by fireflies until he reached the center, a circle of standing stones, each etched with symbols glowing faintly gold. In the middle of the circle stood a low table bearing two objects, a clay cup filled with water and a reed flute carved simply yet beautifully. "Choose," came Hathor's kind hum. "Drink of water to know renewal, or play the flute to share it?" Neferu paused. Both called to him. The water promised restoration. The flute promised connection. He bowed his head, then smiled softly. I will drink first, so that I may share after. He lifted the clay cup, cool upon his palms, and drank deeply. The water rolled into him like melted gold, refreshing yet calming. It filled not only his throat, but every limb, dripping into bones, washing away dryness he hadn't known he carried. He exhaled, vision brighter. His chest felt fresher, like a morning breeze fills a room when shutters first open. Now his hand drifted toward the flute. He lifted it, pressing the edge against his lips. The note that poured out was soft. The sound was imperfect, unpolished, yet honest. It vibrated with his own breath, his own heartbeat woven through it. And as he played, the island's fireflies pulsed brighter, dancing in spirals, circling upward until they painted galaxies around the stones. Hathor's voice wrapped around him, harmonizing with his sound. This is balance, child. You first receive rest, and then you give it outward. Renewal does not end with you, it multiplies when shared. Neferu lowered the flute, overcome. Then I will remember to share my ease with others. Even in small ways, kind words, patience, warmth. I will carry my rest into waking life. The goddess's duet swelled one last time, Hathor's honeyed strings, and met At's clean bells. Yes, Neferu, rest is not only for yourself. It blesses others simply by passing through you. The fireflies closed their spiral, streaking upward like a thin path to eternity. The stones hummed softly before fading once more into silence. The candle gong ceased, leaving only a hush that felt complete. Neferu returned to the bark, stepping upon it with steadier stride, feather at his heart, song at his lips. The vessel drifted back onto the great current of dreams. Ahead, the stars opened into endless corridor, as though inviting him always deeper, and he was not afraid. Beneath his breath, he whispered, I am carried, I will not resist. I will not forget. The river shimmered wider, and peace rode the night like wings. Chapter 4, Part A, The Return of the Lullaby. The river carried Neferu as quietly as breath. He sat upon the humble bark, feather pressed to his heart, the memory of lotus voices still drifting within him like perfumed wind. The flute he had played rested beside him, silent yet alive with the resonance of his song. The waters stretched endlessly forward, wide as eternity, yet calm, patient, deliberate. Night wrapped around him, a comforting shawl stitched with stars. And now, he noticed something he had not before. Each star twinkled in time with his breath. As he inhaled, they brightened. As he exhaled, they softened. This recognition settled him further, for it meant that he was no separate wanderer beneath the heavens. He was part of them, woven quite literally into their endless rhythm. The boat glided toward a new horizon. Shapes began to rise, mountains outlined faintly, but glowing as if carved of sleeping fire. Upon their ridges flickered lanterns, not flames, but orbs of golden music. Each orb pulsed faint notes, 1,000 lullabies blending together with perfect gentleness. As the bark brushed closer, the sky thickened with warm radiance. It was like sailing directly into the hearth of the universe. Neferu's body leaned back, his spirit both expanding and grounding at once. It was as though everything in creation was sighing in unison. Upon the mountain shore stood a wide plateau. Waiting there was Hathor herself, no longer hidden within fragrance or water. She appeared radiant yet soft, eyes luminous moons, smile tender as dawn. Her crown of sun disks glowed faintly but without harshness, like an eternal candle carried to guide children back to their homes at night. Neferu stepped from his vessel, kneeling low, but Hathor raised her hand, inviting him upright. Rise, rested child, she said. You need not bow when you belong. Her voice, as always, was music folded into words. Every syllable stroked the air like the pluck of a harp string. Neferu's eyes shone with reverence. You have given more than rest, Lady Hathor. You have reminded me of joy I felt forgotten, and I have learned from Mott the measure of balance. My heart feels less heavy than it has since I was very young. The goddess nodded, stepping closer until her fragrance enveloped him. This is what sleep truly is. Do you understand now? Sleep is the temple you visit each night. Its doors open in humble silence, but its chambers hold treasure endless as stars. You came restless into my desert, and now you know you were only ever walking toward yourself. Neferu felt his eyes grow warm, moisture gathering not from sorrow, but gratitude so great it overflowed. But what will I do when the dawn pulls me back into life? I fear forgetting. Too often I rise with clarity, but by midday it fades until only noise returns. Hathor held her hand aloft. From her palm descended strands of golden light that braided themselves into a thread. She wound this thread gently into the feather of Mahat, fusing them together. Here, she said, carry the lullaby's bond, joy and balance woven as one. Each morning, touch it to remember. Each evening, breathe with it to return. The object floated gently into his hand, transforming now into an amulet hung by a simple cord, a small feather edged with golden lines like flowing music. It trembled faintly against his palm, as though humming a secret song only he could feel. Neferu bowed, clutching the gift to his chest. I will keep it safe. I will remember. Hathor's smile deepened, and she reached forward, resting her hands upon either side of his face. Remember also, Neferu, you are not only receiver. You are now part of the lullaby. Every time you walk kindly, speak softly, laugh freely, others will feel its echo. And though they may not know it by name, they will carry its song within them. Sleep and waking are not as separate as you once thought. Both are instruments of the one song. Neferu nodded slowly, breathing deeper into the truth. The realization stirred something within him. Sleep was not retreat from life, but part of it. It was the soil from which his waking hours drew nourishment, and the nourishment could not remain hoarded. It naturally bloomed outward into patience, into tenderness, into care. The plateau shimmered, and as if called by Hathor's presence, figures began to gather. They were dreamers, countless others who had been carried by sleep into the temple of the night. Children rested here, curled upon sand soft as dove feathers. Elders leaned back upon glowing rocks, their faces calm. Men and women of all kinds drifted in contentment, their very presence proving Neferu was part of a community far grander than his village. Look, said Hathor, extending her arms above the assembly. You are never alone in slumber. Each person, in pillow and mat, in rich home or humble hut, enters the same current. It binds humankind together. This is how love perseveres. Even beyond time-shared rest is shared unity. The sight eased something deep in Neferu. He gazed across the gathering of souls wrapped not in wide-awake engagements, not in toil or duty, but in rest that stripped away burden. He smiled at the thought. Perhaps his neighbors at home slept within this very temple tonight without knowing, even as he did. Perhaps those he worried for, those he feared disappointing, lay at peace here already, bound in the same music. The thought was balm. Darkness above the mountains folded back to reveal a streak of changing color dawn in the distance, preparing her ascent. Hathor's face glowed with the edge of that light. She spoke again, her voice lower now, more intimate, like whispers given to a child tucked into bed. The night has taught you its song, Neferu, but still one part remains understanding departure. All dreamers must return to waking, no matter how luminous their slumber, yet you need not grieve leaving. For each dawn recalls the night's gift if you choose to carry it. She raised her arm, and the flute he had once played within the firefly circle drifted back into his hands. With this, blow your breath gently when you rise. Its note will remind you, and remind those nearby, of the lullaby you now walk within. It need not be music of grandeur. Even a single gentle tone carries the entire river. Neferu cradled the instrument, Feather amulet and flute both safe in his hands, and he bowed one last time. I will carry your song home. Hathor smiled, radiant as the sun soon to emerge. Then, child of the Nile, you have completed my lullaby. It is not mine now. It is yours. Above them, the sky paled slowly with the hush of morning. The goddesses faded into the light, not gone, but folded, like soft voices dissolving into the soul of a dreamer who finally smiles in sleep. Neferu stepped back upon the bark as the great current turned to face the horizon. The Nile stretched bright, alive with the promise of morning. As the vessel drifted onward, he felt no fear of waking, for he knew the lullaby would travel with him, as steady as his breath. Chapter 4, Part B, The Dawn of Peace. The bark swayed across the current, carrying Neferu toward the horizon where night softened to dawn. The first streaks of color spread across the sky, not the harsh blaze of midday, but delicate hues, lavender and rose, melting together like watercolors brushed by unseen hands. Neferu sat quietly, flute upon his lap, feather amulet upon his chest. His hands rested open on his knees. His breath grew slower than ever, deeper, steadier, moving with the motion of the river. And as he breathed, he realized that for the first time he could recall, his mind lingered nowhere but here, in this vast and delicate moment. The distant stars gently dimmed, not vanishing but folding themselves back into morning. In their retreat, he felt no sadness, only gratitude, as though the heavens had loaned him their company and now reclaimed it so they might keep watch again the coming night. In the quiet sigh of their fading, Neferu imagined they whispered, "Remember, return, rest is always here." The water grew clearer, revealing depths that swirled like fine silk beneath the surface. Shapes of fish, glowing gently, floated below. He saw flashes of lotus roots tangling and loosening. All of it seemed alive with the same harmony Hathor had sung into his heart. Nothing here moved with rush or strain. All obeyed the slow music of balance. The bark nosed onto a sandy bank, smooth and golden. Neferu stepped off, barefoot upon firm earth. The air smelled of morning reeds, carrying hints of papyrus and clay warmed by light. He listened, hoping again for Hathor's voice, but the silence revealed something else. He no longer needed constant guidance. The lullaby remained alive in him. He fingered the amulet-shaped feather lightly. Each touch vibrated a faint hum through his chest, steadying his breath. He lifted the flute quietly, and though his fingers had no lessons in music, he pressed it gently to his lips. His breath flowed across the reed, producing one clear, mellow note. It resonated across the shore, echoing strangely far for such a soft sound. The ripples it stirred shimmered visibly on the Nile's surface, turning the waters momentarily to liquid glass. Even the reed swayed more slowly, as if bowing to the note. Neferu lowered the flute, astonished, but a smile crept onto his lips. "So it is true," he whispered. "One sound carries the whole song." The realization filled him with trust in what lay ahead. He did not need to compose mighty hymns, nor summon all wisdom at once. One sound, one breath, one act of gentleness, that was enough to carry the lullaby outward. The sky grew brighter, sun not yet risen, but sending her messengers ahead. Birds stirred in distant clusters, their wings twinkling against the pastel backdrop. Neferu imagined they too carried the lullaby outward into waking lands. Stepping forward across the sand, his vision shimmered. The dream garden, the bark, the glowing river, they began to fold like soft curtains of fabric, revealing something familiar beneath his own village. Mud brick homes warm with sleep, fields hushed under dawn shadows, a few smoke trails curling from early risers' hearts. He blinked, astonished. He stood at the edge of his home. Had he truly traveled across cosmic rivers and luminous gardens only to return here? Yet within him was no doubt the journey had been real, for even now the amulet glowed with soft light against his chest. His breath hummed with the goddess's song. His body carried balance as clearly as if he had stepped directly from May-at scales. The first long beam of sun crested the horizon. Ra had risen again, steady in his voyage, reminding Neferu of what Hathor had said. Even the mighty sun rests each night, restored by darkness, balanced by return. Children stirred in homes. The first laugh of morning filtered through walls. Neferu watched, heart swelling. He whispered softly, "Yes, I will carry it with me. I will walk within the lullaby." He turned toward the Nile once more as it shimmered in dawnlight. For a final moment, he closed his eyes and thanked Hathor for song, for joy, for allowing him to sleep not as escape but as return. He thanked Maat for balance, for the feather that steadied him. He thanked the river itself for cradling him smoothly through his voyage. Then Neferu opened his eyes and stepped toward his village. The new day laid before him. He carried no anxious weight this time. Each passing thought, each flutter of worry, felt lighter, softer, like feathers beside stone. And his steps they no longer scattered restlessly. Each drop of his feet upon earth reverberated, quiet and steady, joining again the eternal rhythm. And though no one else in the village would know it, as their own busy morning unfolded, Neferu would bring rest into their lives now too. His smile, recovered and genuine, would spread it. His patient silence would ripple it. His laughter would remind them. Though unspoken, they would all be touched by Hathor's lullaby moving through him, even in daylight. Long after, when evening returned and stars pierced the deep cloth of night once more, Neferu would pull the flute to his lips again. Perhaps only one note, perhaps a small tune, nothing grand. And in that sound, he would hear the voices of stars, lotus, river, goddess, mother. He would know rest awaited him always. And so his journey was not finished. No, it can never end, for each night the lullaby would receive him again. Each morning it would return with him, and through him it would ripple, a quiet current blessing whoever wandered near. Whether a king in golden halls or a child in woven mat, all dreamers would share the same boat, the same song, the same eternal reminder. Sleep is not absence. Sleep is union. Sleep is joy and balance and return. And as you, dear listener, close your eyes in this very moment, hearing the final breaths of Neferu, night, you may also feel what he felt. The feather upon your chest, the river cradling your body, the goddess singing softly. Let your own thoughts drift now into her voice. Let burdens turn to weightless air. For Hathor sings still. She sings for him. She sings for all. She sings even now for you.